Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, good evening, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon here with my co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body, Tim James, coming straight from you to you from Oregon. How are you doing today, Tim James?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. And once again, you found a really cool dude. He's smart, though. He left North Carolina to get out of the frigid temperatures, and he's bathing himself down in the warm rays of the sunshine, that immune-boosting sunshine of Florida.
There you go. That's right.
Rick, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for asking me to come on. It's great.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm very excited, as I normally am. I'm excitable that way, right, Rick White? But I am super excited to have another one of our advisor partner mentors on the show to share a lot of his background history, how we got connected and everything. It's been a little over 2 years since we first met originally, and we're going to get a chance to get into Rick White's backstory as well. So Rick White from North Carolina, but coming to you via satellite, if you will, from Miami. Rick, how are you doing down there?
I'm great. Just had to get away to get into some 80-degree temperatures here and take a couple of days R&R, but it's great. And I'm happy to be on with you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm super thankful for you to be able to be on here, and I'm excited to as we progress during this Enrichers, you're going to get a chance to hear from somebody who has been in the industry for 40 plus years, wealth management, estate planning, financial planning, tax mitigation, risk mitigation, just to name a few things here. So, Rick, why don't we go ahead and get started with a little bit of your background, what sort of brought you into the financial services arena, and, and how you initially got into the practice of helping people.
It's an interesting story because my original degree is in elementary education. I'm certified K through 8, which makes me eminently qualified to teach adults, And but I got into the business early on because I got married my senior year in college and figured out I needed to make some real money, So I hooked up with a buddy of mine who was in the insurance business and was working on his CFP designation at the time. This is a very long time ago. And he got me started. I always wanted to, really, once I figured out what he was doing, I thought, well, this makes a lot of sense. And it seems like it was a great thing to start with. And so I got started in the business and then got sidetracked a little bit, to be honest. I still kept my insurance license and so on. In fact, worked on my CFP designation at the same time, but I was a finance and insurance manager in an automobile dealership in Parkersburg, West Virginia, of all places. And eventually bought into the company, became general manager, and all the while, again, I kept my my small, financial planning practice going because that's what I wanted to do. But I was in my late 20s making six figures and had 2 demos to drive, one for me and one for my wife, which was hard to pass up, back in those days. So, but I eventually left that in 1990, sold my shares back to the dealer, and started in private practice, and the rest is history there. So it was an interesting beginning, but it was a great background, having been in small business myself, having 80 employees, understanding what it's like to make payroll and deal with customers, as it were, as well as the banks and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was a great beginning. Absolutely a great beginning.
Yeah. So that's what initially, so you decided to go through the CFP class, right?
Yeah.
And, for you enrichers out there, because I have an appreciation for education but why don't you share with our enrichers what it takes to actually get your CFP?
Well, it's a tough course. There's 6 sections, and I know it's changed over the years because I got it all the way back in 1984. So to date myself just a little bit, but there's as far as I know, there were 6 sections at the time, and we had to pass all 6 in order to get the designation. And at the same time, I took the Series 7 and so on. So, got all that out of the way at the same time that I was doing that. And interestingly enough, but education is, it's interesting though. You can have all the book learning you want throughout the CFP, and it's a great course. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely is. But living it on the street is completely different. It's absolutely different. And I got tickled in some of the classes that we took because some other guys that had already been on the street were trying to answer questions the way they thought they should be answered. And the reality is you need to pass the test by the way that the book author designed the test, answer the questions that way. So you got to know how to test and so on. So, but practical experience, there's nothing that competes with that. No question about it, because, you can't learn everything you need to know. As important as education is, that, life on the street is where you really get schooled in the practicality of retirement planning, risk management, tax planning, estate planning, you name it.
Yeah. So it's, it's interesting because I was just talking to, my newest assistant. We just brought him on here recently, Will, and he's 19 years old, going to ASU. And one of the things I was talking about, I said, he's going to go to real estate school, which I've gone to real estate school, got my real estate license. And I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great education. I said, but here's the thing you'll learn. They teach you to pass the test.
Right.
The application of the test is completely different than, I said, much like that calculus or trigonometry class you took in high school, right? Like all they're doing is teaching you something, but it never really applies unless you're, a NASA rocket scientist or something like that. It's never going to apply in your normal, regular, everyday life. So
isn't that interesting how it's always like that? I've been in so many industries. I was in the mortgage industry, and guess what? You had to pass these stupid tests, and they had nothing to do with what happened in the real world. It was all about paying somebody some fee so they could justify themselves. You get into the financial services. Yes, some of it was good, but for the most part, you had to study all this stuff. And then as soon as you passed, you forgot it. And you have to get into the real world and produce results. Now that I'm in the health space, I got a couple of friends of mine. They're both doctors, husband and wife team. And they went back to get their PhDs, and they were looking at each other at the test. And the guy looked over his wife and said, "Do you realize we're going to have to intentionally make the wrong choices to pass this test?"
Right.
He's
exactly.
Almost half the answers they had to put the not true answer just to pass the damn test. Right. It's just crazy. So you know what? My old financial advisor mentor Jeff Dixon said. He goes, "It's like people have this alphabet soup behind their name." All these degrees and all this stuff. And he goes, people don't care about that anymore. All they care about is is my money safe? Am I making a reasonable rate of return? And, how much money am I tax free? And how's it going to be handed on down the line, down to my family? The real world stuff.
Carter, that reminds me so much of 2 things. Number one, the estate planning seminar that CSI does, and the fact that it's not just working theory, it's working reality. And I think that's so important in the educational process. And it is just like my retirement course, The New Reality in Our Retirement. It's designed for real life. It's not just the typical stuff you would see in an investment course or whatever, So, but back to the estate planning thing. I mean, it is application of certain situations that really do happen in people's lives. And then what's the consequence, And so that's, I think, in the educational space, coming back to what you guys were commenting about, hey, taking the test and all that stuff is good, but what does our clients the most good is the reality of what actually happens and how to deal with it. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation today about they can't teach you how to be able to build relationships. Like they don't. It's one of those things that it's who you are, right? You can't be taught certain things in college. And I was alluding to this I don't know if it's gone viral or not. But Elon Musk was in front of an audience and they were asking him a question about the value of college these days. And basically he said, you can get all your information right now. You don't need to go to college to find out what you can learn. He goes, college is good for one thing. Seeing if you can go through the homework and then the useless homework just to see if you can complete a task. It's like he called them good for if you can complete chores, and that was pretty much all that it was good for. So anyway, well, hey, back to the CFP though. Let's talk a little bit about, because I know that here in maybe the next segment we're going to talk about what's happening with you right now and how you're applying, to use that terminology, the things that CSI Financial Group has put into place, to make your presentations and your differentiation out there in North Carolina in your practice. But the CFP test, there is an aspect of it that you have to pass that is specific to estate planning.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about, I know it's been a few years, right? But can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the estate planning section addresses not only wills and trusts and that sort of thing, but it brings out the importance of the revocable living trust. And of course, it talks about certain irrevocable trusts, the irrevocable life insurance trust, and the charitable remainder trust, charitable remainder annuity trust, charitable remainder unit trust, you name it. It's all there. But it does open up the doorway for practitioners to understand that, there is a need for estate planning. It is part of a financial plan. It's undeniable. It has to be part. In fact, if you're not addressing the estate planning portion, in my view, you're guilty of malpractice, because it is part and parcel to the entire financial plan, the entire retirement plan, because it affects your family and how assets are transferred and the efficacy of how those assets are transferred. And it is critically important. So having that knowledge and background, I commend the CFP board for putting that as part of the course. Absolutely.
So it suffice it to say then, 100% of the CFPs that are out there right now that are practicing, financial advisory in whatever way that they monetize those relationships, whether it's fee-based or regardless, it is now I've been saying this myself in my own humble opinion, but I'm going to ask your opinion, Rick White. Can you call yourself a trusted advisor if you do not have estate planning as a foundational piece of your business model?
No, simple as that. There are so many advisors out there that are either doing investment planning or insurance planning or some combination of the two, but very few really understand, frankly, anything at all about estate planning. They're referring out to an attorney, losing control of the situation, have no idea. In fact, I've seen situations in which the attorneys that they're referring to are hustling the clients for insurance products. So, it's not all that it seems out there in terms of referring business out. So you have to have a handle on it, and you're smart if you have control of it. Because if you think about it, the whole point of the CFP designation is holistic financial planning. You are the quarterback of that client's financial life, and you bring in perhaps specialties that you don't, that you're not expertise in, or that you're not an expert in, but yet you understand enough that you can control and call the shots on behalf of the client. This whole fiduciary thing is really, really important. So in my mind, it's pretty tough to be a fiduciary on behalf of your client without having a working knowledge and, frankly, a mechanism to address the estate planning needs. Pure and simple. Just my opinion.
So it's obviously a pretty rock solid opinion. And I would venture a guess, not that I've talked to all of your clients, but I know that we have engaged in a lot of those conversations about them, that the appreciation for what it is that you bring to the estate planning, what I call family succession planning and peace of mind, that you really truly deliver.
I got to tell you, the one comment that I hear most is, we are so glad that you brought this up and that you have a way for us to address this. We've been putting this off for years, and it feels so good to have this addressed and to make sure that everything's in place the way we've always wanted it to be. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that for an advisor.
That's what you want your clients to be saying. You want them to be speaking good stuff about you like that. Like, thank you so much. I've been getting help, I thought, for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You're the first person that's ever brought this up or brought this to my attention. And I also have to point out, I really like how you guys are spinning pivoting on that, estate planning to family succession planning, so a layperson can understand it, so that somebody that's got, $1 million or $2 million, like, I don't have a huge estate, I don't need to worry about it. You do. It's family succession planning. So right now we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, Carter's going to ask Rick, what has CSI Financial's relationship with your business done for your business and for your clients? We'll be right back.
Are you concerned about being able to get all of your affairs in order during this trying time? Are you troubled by what would happen if you ever became incapacitated? Maybe you've been procrastinating in the past to address these issues, but now, more than ever before, you know just how important it is to get everything documented. Well, don't worry, because we can get you taken care of right from the comfort of your own home. Welcome to the revolutionary My Life Card Plan estate plan processing platform, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. We are very pleased you are here, and rest assured, we can offer you a complete estate planning experience regardless of where in the 50 states you may live. Our unique transformational system combines efficiency, convenience, and professional support at levels you never thought possible for setting up your estate plan. Moreover, we will provide you with powerful, user-friendly dynamics that put you in total control of your plan throughout your lifetime. Call us today at 888-316-6040 or go to www.csifinancialgroup.com, and our team of specialists will be there to assist you every step of the way.
What's up, Richards? Tim James here with Carter Wilcoxon. We've got on the show today Rick White, CEO of BottomLineProtection.com. BottomLineProtection.com. And take it away, Mr. Co-host.
Well, thank you, Mr. Co-host. I appreciate that. Hey, we are joined again here in Richards by Rick White, my dear friend, mentor on our platform, who teaches, trains, coaches, and collaborates with our other advisors. We call them the advisor partner mentees, on exactly what it is that he's doing in his practice. So don't take our word for it. We're just the lowly IMO that we don't know what we're doing out here, right? But what we do is we make sure that we bring the best talent to help enhance your practice out there. So Rick White, thank you again for joining us on your vacation in Miami, Florida.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hey, I'm always working. It's just working in a different location. So that's all it's about. So happy with you by all means.
Well, perfect. And we appreciate it. So Rick, let's, if you don't mind, maybe tell the quick story about how we met one another and then how we address this thing we talk about all the time, estate planning. But really, to Tim's point before the break, it's about family succession planning, right? And those are terminologies that people can really, it connotes the understanding of really, okay, my family, okay, got that. Succession, okay, that means when I'm not, okay, and then I got to plan that. So let's talk a little bit about how we got connected and then the solution that we have brought to market all over the country.
Sure. So, it's interesting, a little bit of backstory on this part. So in the mid 90s, I had an office in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I worked with an attorney down there. And North Carolina allows you to do wills and trusts and that sort of thing under the supervision of an attorney at the time, long before I met, Carter and his group and Gary and so on. And but the whole point was that we were doing living trust seminars back in those days, helping people do their estate plan. And, people are concerned today about, if they have something left over, to take care of their kids and their grandkids. And I hear this a lot. I feel the same way. I'm certainly concerned about my kids, but I think they're going to be okay. I'm much more concerned today about my grandkids, and what's going to happen to them. So it's the whole family succession planning. So back then we were doing the trust, and I'm very well versed in living trust and how it applies in the financial planning world and so on and so forth. So then I got introduced to Carter a little over 2 years ago by a mutual friend of ours. And he said, "You just got to talk to this guy." He said, just see what he said. So we talked, and as it turned out, I happened to be out in Phoenix, Arizona at another meeting, and met Carter and sit down with him, and I literally grilled him for a couple hours.
Oh, you grilled me hard.
Yeah, so because the whole point is I want to make sure that that we vetted what they were doing, and interestingly enough, there wasn't a question that I brought up that he didn't have an answer to. And the same thing with Gary Lofsgaard with ITS, the platform that does the estate planning for us. And it worked out very, very well. So they passed the test as far as I was concerned. So it was a situation where, my estate plan, I wanted to put it in a digital format, which is what they do. And I wanted to make sure that if it worked for me, then it would work for my clients, which is the whole point, because, my reputation's on the line. So they passed the test with flying colors, and we began introducing then to our clients that I had formerly been referring out to this local attorney, who's a great attorney, but, she's absolutely cubic money in terms of what she was charging. And so we could do exactly the same kind of work for literally a third of the money or less. And it made so much sense in the fact that it was on a digital platform, and it made it so easy to make changes, and which life happens. And, Carter, I got to tell you, we've made hundreds of changes already since we've introduced this with our various clients, between the Secure Act and I had one client whose daughter passed away. We had to make the change in their documents for that, which was heartbreaking, but yet it was real. And we didn't have to go see an attorney. We just literally went online together and made the changes that needed to be made, saved it, and it was done. And it made it so much easier on mom and dad that they could just do it, put it out of their mind, and do their best to continue on with life. So I can't say enough good things about what this system has done. for my clients and for the practice, as a matter of fact, because nobody is doing what we're doing. There's not a firm in captivity, as far as I'm concerned, that does everything in the retirement space that we're doing, as well as the estate planning portion, in addition to all the tax mitigation and risk management and asset management and so on and so forth. So, it's all part of what CSI brings to the table in terms of what's available to advisors and the advisors' clients, which is, in my mind, so critically important. I know I sound like I'm a commercial for CSI, but what I'm a commercial for is what works, and what works for an advisor. And, I've been doing this, like Carter said, for over 40 years. I've seen everything there is to see. I've experienced everything. It's pretty tough to get past me on the smell test. And this one works. Everything that they've said they would do, they've done, which I think is critically important, obviously. And my clients, Carter, I don't know if I've told you this, but every client I have is tickled pink. No complaints whatsoever, no backlash, no nothing. They're all thrilled that they have the plan in place that they have. So
as the saying goes, I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. This is the definition, the epitome of caring for what it is that you do. And when I say, and we have these personalized, customized videos that we share, these explainer videos, just to introduce the concept in the first place. And in those videos, we talk about delivering true peace of mind. Is it fair to say that that's really what you're delivering, is the true peace of mind, and what differentiates you? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also, you can argue that it's crazy to not want to be a part of this because it will make a difference in your practice. But is that the thing, that true delivery and that differentiation, because of that foundational approach, is what separates you and your son, Wes White, from at Patriot Wealth, right? And that firm that you guys have, together? Is that really the biggest thing in how it all sort of starts, with the relationship building and the fact that people will do business with those who they know and they like and they trust?
It's exactly that. And that's the very thing that people are happiest about, is this peace of mind. I got to tell you the story. This just happened in the last week or so. So we had a referral. We have a client, good client with our asset management side. We did the estate planning platform with him, and his sister called us and said, my brother, I won't tell you his name, of course, but my brother said that I should talk with you guys. And so she came in, we went through the retirement planning process that we do with all of our clients, and she became a client. And I just a couple of days ago completed a trust package with her, because that's what she was looking for. She said, I've got to get my estate plan done. I want what my brother did, pure and simple. And it was much a lay down as it gets, as far as that goes. But the point of it is, now, interestingly enough, she has 3 grandchildren, but a 4th sort of grandchild that's not really part of her son's, issue, but they call him their grandchild, and she wanted him included in the trust. And she said, can we do it? And I said, we absolutely can do it. And I've already got it worked out with the attorney and the paralegal that we have involved. And it's all set up. They all know what to do. And she's tickled pink. And she's already set up to go through, the process, Carter, that we have, the outsourced estate planning team process, which is very, very smooth and very cool and very automatic. And so she's going to be back in my office via Zoom within 2 weeks, and we'll have it completely wrapped up. And you talk about peace of mind for her. She said, if I can get this done, I will sleep better at night. So
Tim James, you've now heard a lot of the guests that we brought on, that advisor mentors that are on the platform and everything. The ongoing theme here is people aren't calling up Rick White to say, hey, you sold my brother an annuity. Can you sell me the same annuity? Hey, I heard about this tax-free life insurance. Can you sell me tax-free life insurance? So it's the normal theme. Whenever you get a referral, a lot of times they're calling you. You're not actually even having to call them. They're being told by their family members. And Tim, you've heard these stories already on how, hey, you helped such and such with their estate planning. Can you do the same thing for me? Right. And it's because of, and we're going to get into the OEPT here in a second, but this is the differentiator. This is a thing that changes the game for a financial advisor or just a quote unquote insurance agent, right? This is the thing that will differentiate you. But Tim, you want to talk a little bit about how you've heard that over and over again as we have these guests on?
Yeah, and it's pretty cool too, because it really is a differentiator. I know, like I've talked about it before, when I worked with my mentor, we had this triangle of trust. You had the financial advisor at the top, you had the estate planning attorney on the bottom left, and the CPA on the bottom right. And the problem was those three people weren't talking to each other. In fact, in most cases, they didn't even know each other. Right. So what we did in our practice was bring those together. What you guys are doing is bringing that second piece, the estate planning, in-house and having complete control. And it's really nice too for the end consumer, because usually when they go through a traumatic event or something happens, they need to make changes. The last thing they want to do is drive downtown anywhere, most likely, and go up an elevator and get, bent over. Basically it's expensive and it takes time. It's like with these guys, they call them up and over the phone, click, 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 done, you're handled, thank you. And they go back to, holding their family's hand and dealing with what's important, spending time together. So I think it's a really cool concept. What you guys have done is that you helped your advisor and your advisor partners button up their client's life. And it's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So Rick, let's talk a little bit before we get into the last segment. We're going to get into the health side of things here in a second, Enrichers, and we appreciate you staying on and listening. Rick White again, on vacation from Miami, Florida. Rick, we really appreciate you taking the time. It's late at night there. I mean, it's Phoenix, Arizona, right? And it's 8:20 here, so I know it's very late there. So we appreciate you being on tonight. So let's talk a little bit about how the OEPT has been working, where you actually collaboratively work
Carter,
with other advisors.
Can you explain OEPT to the listeners?
Right.
Thank you very much for that. OEPT, the Outsourced Estate Planning Team. So this outsourcing of your estate planning team and the role that Rick plays in onboarding clients that aren't your clients. Rick, why don't you talk a little bit about how that relationship gets started and how you collaborate with other advisors all over the country? You're in North Carolina. You got some advisors that you work with in Washington State. So talk a little bit about how that works and how that's been going.
So, the whole point is, I mentioned earlier that I referred out to a local estate planning attorney and thus lost control of the case. So what we wanted to do with this process is make it so advisors could simply employ us as their estate planning team without fear that we were stealing business. We were, in fact, augmenting their business. In other words, making it really easy for them and adding to their practice in a way that they've never dreamed of before. So I got to tell you about a case. So we had this case, and this happened to be local, but it happens across the country as well. But the one in top of mind was local. And so this advisor did an event. He simply did our seminar, made it available to him. and he did the seminar. One of the people that came to the seminar wanted to chat with us. We got on a Zoom call and completed their estate plan. I was the outsourced mentor on that because of my background. I know how the relationship between estate planning and financial planning works. So we got them started with the estate plan. They went through the process, and in the process of funding the trust, if it's okay if I say this, Carter, that we discovered what assets they had to work with. And then part of our team at CSI worked with the advisor who would have never dreamed about doing this level of planning with these kinds of clients. Then once we completed the process, they came back to me for what's called a proof of funding. Want to make sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. I spent another hour with them addressing their questions. They thought our system was the coolest thing since sliced bread, literally. And then I put them on the client's calendar, or I'm sorry, the advisor's calendar, to chat with them further. We already knew what was going to take place in terms of the thought process of tax mitigation and some risk management strategies for the clients. And then the advisor asked them some additional questions, set them up with Vic, our guy in CSI, and they had meetings with the client and are now in the process of, I believe, closing business that this advisor otherwise would never have seen in a million years, because of this process. And so, it's not my insurance business; it's the advisor's insurance business. All we wanted to do was provide a mechanism by which we had asset discovery, not only take care of the clients in the right way, in a fiduciary type capacity, with the attorney being involved, getting their trust funded, getting their estate plan in place, and then having the discovery of, say, you know what, we can save you $250,000 in taxes over your life expectancy, at least by doing this, this, and this. And it's just, everybody wins in that sort of scenario. The client wins, the advisor wins. Obviously, we have a client with the estate planning team, and the clients are happy as they can be. And that's the only thing that really matters.
So wait a minute. So let me get this straight. You don't have to do this stuff in-house in the beginning. You could work with somebody like you, Rick. Like, let's say I'm an advisor listening today, and I'd be like, hey, I don't know if I want to bring in that whole estate planning thing yet. Maybe I'm not ready for it, but maybe I could just hook up with you and work. And maybe after 6 months or a year, I'm like, wow, this is really awesome. Then I can bring it in-house. Is that how it works?
Sure. I mean, anything to prove that how well the system works and, that provide value to the advisor is the whole point. I mean, that's.
Or maybe they don't want to do it and they just have you keep doing it. Right? It's an option.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the thing that we learned early on, Tim, and how we pivoted to what we're doing now is, for the longest time, I was hoping that everybody's going to be like Rick White, just so you know. I was like, man, if I could just get another 50 Rick Whites, that'd be awesome. Here's the thing. They're few and far between. Rick White, Lisa Camacho, Scott Garcia, who have all now been on here. We say the best for last. Thank you, Rick. They are few and far between. These advisors don't have the capacity nor the time. And what Rick was talking about earlier is that this is an untapped area for specializing that most advisors are either, one, scared to touch, or number two, it's too much effort to learn because the way they have to do it is so much more cumbersome. Or what they end up having to do is what Rick did early on was he would send them out to an estate planning attorney, and it was all outhoused. So instead of outsourcing it to your attorney,
I like that
that's
one.
what
that's
it is.
You outhouse your clients. That's exactly what you're doing.
Very true. Same result, by the way.
Instead of losing control. So really all we're doing is Rick is collaboratively working with advisors, where advisors don't have to be the specialist in this at all. They need to learn a little bit of information just so that they don't look, dumb, which we teach them. And we can teach them literally in one hour session.
Right.
All they need to know. That's it. We do all the heavy lifting, but what we do at every step of the way, which is what we did for this advisor that Rick is talking about in his own backyard, is we're like, hey, your advisor does a lot of really good stuff like this. Make sure you go back and talk to him. The next step with our funding specialist, hey, make sure you talk to the advisor, because I see some areas that they can help here. The attorney goes, hey, I'm seeing some things here with all of your assets as we're doing the customization. You got some qualified money here. You might want to make sure when you go back to your advisor that he helps you in some of these areas that he can step in with the tax planning stuff. And then Rick comes in, piles on at the very end. All through that process, the advisor looks like a rock star. And the advisor hasn't done anything, nothing. To Rick's point, he wouldn't be able to close these clients without us, which is why he doesn't ever want to do it himself, because he can't do it himself. I mean, he could, but it would cost a lot of money.
All right, good point, guys. That's a very powerful and profound point. So we got to take another break. When we get back, we're going to ask CEO Rick White about his health. We'll be back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. Welcome back, Enrichers. Tim James here with my co-host, Carter Wilcoxon. And today we've got Rick White in the house, CEO of BottomLineProduction.com. Hey, Rick, why don't you go ahead and just fire away any questions you might have about your health or anybody in your family's health that I could help with.
Well, it's interesting. So a bit of history. My mom died of breast cancer when she was 32, and Dad died of cancer when he was 43, although I think his was environmentally caused from his work position. But I don't have those issues at this point. But up until 5 years ago, I weighed almost 100 pounds heavier than I am now. And I had, because I was diabetic and insulin dependent, I qualified for bariatric surgery. So I'm still diabetic, although I'm no longer on insulin, but I'm having difficulty with, and I feel like almost naked telling this on a podcast, but I'm having difficulty with some neuropathy in my feet. So I have, those are the two biggest issues as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, my health is good, my blood pressure is good, my heart's great, all that sort of thing. So, what can you tell me? What do I need to know?
Well, if you have neuropathy, number one, it's just you got to get your blood flow increasing again. So it's is it type 2 diabetes?
Yes.
And are you taking metformin?
Jardiance, actually, and occasionally metformin, when I need to, but it's largely controlled. Yeah. Okay,
cool. So like Dr. Clement, a friend of mine who's, we were, a guy brought this question up. He said, I got type 2 diabetes. Does this program work for this? And he said, look, first thing you have to understand is type 2 diabetes is not a disease. It is a lifestyle choice. And that's why people that will come to the Institute, this is a place where I transformed my health. I had a buddy had cancer. I went there to support him. I had no idea what I was getting into, man. I was a mess. I was bleeding rectally. My elbows were bleeding for eczema. I was 40 pounds overweight. I was looking terrible, tired, wasn't sleeping well, acid reflux all day long. And we went there and we learned about purifying the blood, the fat, and the muscle tissue, getting these toxins out, these no-seum toxins out of the body that we can't see, that are bioaccumulating in our muscle and our fat and our tissue and our blood, cleaning out the intestinal tract, Did you know, Rick, that the average person has about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon?
That explains a lot.
Well, what do you think? Do you think that might be a problem? And what I learned was this doctor told me, he's like, hey, Tim, your colon is not a storage tank. It's a garbage removal system. So we just have to look at your body like a car, and we just got to clean it up. It's really not that hard. Type 2 diabetes is literally, it's actually the most dangerous situation for people to heal, because when you start implementing things, you can heal so fast that the medicine can make you sick. Right. So you need to be under your doctor's care, working with them and say, hey, look, I'm going to be changing my lifestyle. I'm going to be doing some detoxing. I'm going to take some of these supplements. I'm going to be drinking more water. I'm going to be limiting my meat intake. I'm going to be doing quite a few things here. And I need you to monitor my blood. Now, usually diabetics are like superstars. They're checking their blood, their sugars and stuff. They're experts at it. Are you an expert?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes. So usually you're okay, but we just will have that word of caution with that. But no, man, I mean, like I showed you this, that our green juice powder. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim, we don't cure nobody. People have to heal themselves, right? It's by lifestyle change.
Sure.
But I've got a gal who I work with Washington State Narcotics Investigators Association, WISNIA. And these detectives, one of them up in Central Washington, got on our products, and one of the gals in the office just like, hey, will it help me? I got diabetes. I got neuropathy in my legs. And she started drinking the greens a couple times a day, and her neuropathy's gone. But when she stops drinking it, it comes back. And she called one day. She had an order issue or something. And I was talking to her, and I was like, oh, you're with the WISNIA guys. And she's like, yeah. And she said, this really works wonders for my legs. And I said, well, the greens is awesome because it's replacing the nutrition. It's helping with some of the bacteria in the gut and all this stuff, and it's helping to detox you at some level. But I said, it's only one tool in the toolkit. I said, I'd really like to offer you a free coaching session and really help you with your diet, because what you're putting in your mouth is what's causing your disease. Would you be willing to do that? I'd love to help you. And she's like, no, I'm just going to drink the greens. So I'm like, okay, you can only help people that want to be helped. So she's using it as a very healthy Band-Aid, right? But she wouldn't have to make too many more changes, and she would have been right as rain, but she just didn't want to do it. So you're not handicapped because of your mom or your dad.
I'm sorry not to interrupt, but what kind of thing what would you have suggested for her in addition to the greens?
Well, I would have suggested first off that she get her foundation in place. And the foundation is drinking half of your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water daily. And if you live in a city and you're on a city tap water, you have to restructure that water, because the city tap water is under these high pressure pipes and it coagulates these molecules. We talked about this before. Now Carter's like, oh yeah, I know this one. and you can't absorb it very well. It's like, instead of a 4 to 5 cluster, it's like sand. It goes up to 20 to 25 cluster, and it's like bowling balls. So picture your intestinal lining like a chain link fence. And you try to throw a bowling ball against a chain link fence, what's going to happen? It's going to bounce off. Sure. But you throw sand through a chain link fence, it goes right through. Most of it, some will bounce off. So our water on high pressure city pipes has to be restructured today. I 3 years ago, I learned about this, and I drank a quart of restructured water, and it disappeared. And then I drank another quart in 15 minutes, and it disappeared. And 15 minutes later, I drank another quart. And for 6 hours, I was high as a kite on water with energy and just unbelievable energy and mental clarity. And I called the lady up that showed me that stuff, and I said, how do I get one of these machines? And then I added that. So I had a water purification system, and then I added this thing behind it that restructured it and then charged it with molecular hydrogen. By doing that, you're going to get better absorption of nutrition and of the food you eat and the supplements you take, about 80%. So it's a huge deal. And your body's mostly made of what? It's water. Right? Sure. And 95% of people are not drinking enough of it. So that would be number one. Number two, we have people chew their food really well. Chew your food until liquefied. That's number two. And for time's sake, I'll just speed these up. Of course, secret number three is, now that you're drinking a lot of purified, restructured water, if you need help with that, I can help you. And chewing your food well, then you need to not drink liquids with meals. And because when you chew your food well, you're actually creating all these enzymes in your mouth. You have 6 ducts in your mouth that secrete amylase and lipase that break down your starches and fats. And you send that down in your gut, and that's going to shake and bake and break down the starches and fats that you're eating. If you now drink water, purified, restructured water, or beer or wine with your meal, or apple juice, you're diluting the digestive enzymes, and now you're going to go back to fermentation and gut rot, and you're going to be destroying these intestinal villi, these little hair-like structures that line the intestinal tract. And you're just, it's not going to end well. I mean, 90% of us have some level of what I had, what was called leaky gut syndrome. And when you have that, you get these little microscopic tears or holes in the intestinal lining, and then undigested food particles and microbes get into the bloodstream and cause inflammation and cause problems like diabetes or cancer or Hashimoto's or Graves' disease or fibromyalgia or MS or whatever, right? Your predisposition to a weakness is going to show up as your immune system drops. And it's not your age, it's your environment. This is the term epigenetics, right? Have you heard of that term?
No.
So the whole thing has been genetics, all genetics. It's all genetics. If your mom got it and your dad got it, you're going to get it. No, that's not the case. You're all eating the same shit, or you're exposed to the same crap, right? If what genetic research has showed us is that they take a healthy cell, they throw it in a petri dish with something they know is going to cause cancer, a known carcinogen. Then they look at it and they're like, oh, okay, it mutated. What caused that? Maybe we can find a synthetic drug and sell it to you, Rick, and we'll make a lot of money with it. That's not the answer. The answer is don't put your healthy cells in a petri dish full of cancer-causing substances. It's the environment, stupid, as Dr. Bruce Lipton, a 50-year cell biologist, told us. He coined the term epigenetics. So what that means is we have about a 2 to 3% chance we're going to have a genetic something that's going to screw us up. Maybe we've got a mechanic issue in a heart valve or something. This is where surgeons can come in and save the day and make you have a higher quality of life. But for 97% of us out there, we just need to change the environment, the way we think. We need estate planning, family succession planning. We're not doing that anymore, right? And things will change for you. You think how you think, what goes in your mouth, the way you're drinking your water, and stuff like that. And your life will change. And right back to the water, when you avoid liquids with meals, we usually recommend about a half an hour to an hour before a meal, stop drinking liquids, and then wait an hour to 2 hours afterwards, and then start drinking lots of liquids again. Allow your body to digest that food properly. So these are the core, and then we actually have the fourth one is we have people do breath work before they eat. Just big deep breath in through your nose, out through the mouth, and just start repeating that in and out, in and out. What you'll find out is that with a minute or two, the blood will rush from your extremities back into your organ system so you can digest your food, because most of us live in a fight or flight mode, and your body, you're stressed out at work, hustling around, clients, taking care of everything, and your body thinks you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. So the breath work will center you, reduce your stress too, which also contributes to type 2 diabetes and almost every other disease, and it'll allow you to digest your food properly. Now, specifically, besides the water, we have to start getting high quality fats into your diet. That's very important so that the cell membrane and this means you can't cook the oil. You can't cook the fat. So avocados and flaxseed and red raspberry extract and actually blue-green algae are actually really good for a short period of time to help rehabilitate this fatty membrane around your cells so your cell can now pull nutrients in properly. And see, that's the problem with diabetes. You have a lot of sugar floating around in the blood.
Right.
That's what they call it, high blood sugar. It can't get into the cell so the cell can burn the fuel.
Right.
So we have to hydrate the cell to get the nutrients in. We have to put the good fat membrane around the cell to get the nutrients in. And we have to do the last thing, which is reduce the inflammation around the cell to get the nutrients in. If you do those three things and clean out your gut so that the nutrients can get into the bloodstream, you've got a recipe for success there. And you'll see pretty quick turnarounds with this. And I'd love to work with you on it and help you, and you'd be blown away.
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated and amazed, and I'd love to work with you on that. Where can everybody else listening go to learn more about this?
Well, I have links here in the show, but my website's chemicalfreebody.com.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other questions, brother?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just, this sounds exciting to me because I feel like I've learned something new about, hey, Carter, as good as estate planning is, this is even better because I don't have to die, Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I got to tell you, let me just jump in. I know this is your segment, Tim, and everything, but when Tim and I met and he started telling me his backstory, he actually had told me, dude, you should just start your own podcast, because I was trying to get on as a guest on his podcast. And I was like, I don't really know, I'm not sure where to start or whatever. But we got talking more and more and more. And he told me his backstory, used to be a wealth advisor, but he told me about this clinic that he went down to and about how he's overweight and like how things changed and how his whole entire life changed. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, and the more and more we got talking, I go, Tim, dude, we should start our own podcast and call it the Health and Wealth Podcast.
Yeah, sounds good.
Because and then so that's where our intro, and we talk about it, right? The show where we talk about how we, fatten your wallet and flatten your belly, right? And this is all part of obviously what we at CSI Financial Group are always trying to do, always trying to bring value every chance we get, right? But whenever he told me start my own podcast, I didn't know where to start. Tim was the one that introduced me to the podcast team that he has. That ultimately, we've got our own Instagram page now. Shameless plug, go to the Health and Wealth Podcast Show.com. But it's chock full of so many great things that help you ultimately do one thing: live your life longer and more value in your life, right? And to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That was the whole point and message that for all of our enrichers out there, which is why we call them enrichers, right? We want to enrich you with this type of information that allows you to enjoy, life. It's great to make a whole bunch of money, but what good is it if your longevity is decreased because your health is not increased?
Tim, I'm about to turn 65, and I don't think I should be this old. You know what I mean? I don't want to be this old. So I'm encouraged, and we're definitely going to be talking about this because I definitely want another 30 years minimum. So,
and the most important thing is not just the 30 years, but it's the quality of those years.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
what we want. That's what we want. High quality of life, be able to move, touch our toes. I don't want to have to use Velcro shoes. What about you?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready to start walking and perhaps even running marathons.
It's all possible, brother. It's all possible. Well, we really appreciated you being on the show today. I look forward to connecting with you afterwards. Carter, can you take us out, brother?
Absolutely. Hey, enrichers, thank you again for joining us for the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. We were graciously, just wonderfully accepting of Rick White to be a guest on here, and honored as always. I know that we spend a lot of time together, Rick, but it was really great for you to want to share your backstory, your current story, what's going on, and then ultimately to make yourself naked and talk about, your health and what it is, because you are the rule at age 65, right? You're the rule that wants to know, how can I live life longer? I've enjoyed 65 years. Let's get another 30, right? So enrichers, thank you for joining us today on the Health and Wealth Podcast Show for Tim James and Rick White of BottomLineProtection.com. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe on all of the podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. And make sure to check out the Health and Wealth Podcast Show.com to get more great information like this. Tim James, thank you very much for being my co-host. And for all of us here, everybody have a great rest of your day and weekend coming up soon.
Thanks.
Hey, enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.